construction
Happens every
today.
day.
In this economy, people are constructing stuff all the time.
Their buildings,
Sometimes it goes well.
their dog houses.
A lot of times it don't.
Wait,
Right up
nope,
next on Will and
have to
Dave
see
Fix
it.
Your Life.
I can't keep living this way.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man.
Good.
Figured out fun tricks I can do with these cameras.
Right?
Um, but anyway, lots of construction stuff goes on these days.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I remember when I was part of the construction, uh, group people, because my dad did construction for a really long time, right?
Yes.
And then I worked with him for a little bit when he had his own business. And I remember putting on siding. We had at that time, there was like multiple places where we were putting siding on. And I got to tell you, that hardy board, I don't want to have to see it again. Oh,
Yeah, so the construction that I would do is like stage construction, right? So
right.
like it was all a bunch of like piecemeal things called we called it deck. So
Uh-huh.
we'd have like an 8x8 deck, an 8x4 deck, a 4x4 deck, like a 12 by whatever deck, and it was all like piecemeal that you could put together to make like a crazy, however big of a stage you needed. So if you had
Right.
like a 400 person orchestra, we could pull that off. Um, and them dogs was heavy. Especially the
Oh,
8x4s,
yeah.
man, it's like 8 feet long by 4 foot wide.
Oh, yeah.
And I unfortunately showed my hand and I was able to pick them up and launch them into the truck very
Yeah.
quickly.
See, don't do that.
And yeah, I unfortunately Lennied my way into being the guy on the truck the whole time. Um, because I was Hercules. I did a Hercules thing.
Hercules, Hercules,
Everybody
Hercules,
getting mad at me.
Hercules.
Whoa, calm down, Hercules. We ain't got this kind of time. It, it takes three of us to
uh,
do one of you. And I'm like, ah,
right.
damn it. You know.
Yeah.
So whenever there was deck going anywhere, I had to be on the truck. It sucked so bad.
I
But
did the
granted, my
complete
shoulders
opposite.
got fucking friggin' huge, man. My
Right.
shoulders were great.
I
So
did the complete opposite. Like, because those hardy boards are long, but they're heavy because it's cement, right?
yeah, Hardy
And
backer, right.
right. So I would bring, when we were doing stuff, we had the stuff over in the driveway, and then I would have to bring it where we needed it, right? And so I'd pick up like 2 boards or something like that, and I'd bring it. And then my dad would be like, "You can carry more than 2 boards." And I totally could have, but I was young and I didn't care.
Yeah, it's weird when your dad, who looks a lot like Sam Elliott, just tells you what's up.
It is
Like,
weird.
you can carry more than 2 boards, Will.
Yeah, you go.
Well, gee,
He
Mr.
was right though.
Fumagalli, I can carry 4 boards.
He was right. He was
Yeah,
right.
now you can't. You got
And now I
sciatica.
can't even, yeah, so the sciatica is too bad. I can't even carry 1 board now.
Sciatica has to do with your butt.
It does partially your butt. Yep. I watched a lot of videos today, so I've got some exercises to do now. So
Good,
that
man. Yeah,
helps.
that's perfect.
Yeah,
You can stretch your butt muscle out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what happens in construction a lot, though?
Stories.
Big machinery.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
A lot of malicious compliance.
A lot of. Oh yeah.
Hippo Singularity in malicious compliance. By the way, I love that name. Hippo Singularity.
That's great.
Choice. You want me to drive a 34-ton mixer over a sand dune? Sign here, please.
All right.
Concrete
All right.
it's just it says XL, so it's a big one. Concrete mixers are unwieldy, top heavy, and spend a lot of time driving off road with a shifting load. Consequently, we try to pay a lot of attention to what we are driving on and where the customer wants us to go. What the customer wants and what we are physically able to do don't always meet. Yep. That's the triangle of good, fast, and cheap, right? You
Right.
can have 2, but not 3.
Yeah.
And so pick.
You need to choose. You need to choose. You have these options and you can only pick 2. This is it.
Good and cheap ain't gonna be fast. Good and
Uh-uh.
fast ain't gonna be cheap.
Exactly.
Cheap and fast ain't gonna be good. The job site I am working is down near the Salton Sea. For those unfamiliar with Southern California history and geography, the Salton Sea is what happens when a man from Flint, Michigan hires a Canadian shipwright to dig a 60-mile irrigation canal, then digs a couple of illegal bypass channels right before one of the worst floods in the recorded history of the Colorado River. It has no outlet, and it currently is a fetid lake of salt, stink, and tilapia. Cool? Cool.
That's part of the reason I don't like tilapia.
It has nothing to do with the Salton Sea why you don't like tilapia.
I just don't like tilapia.
I mean, it's fine. You just season it right. Anyway, the customer who we will call Polly is
Polly.
building 3 greenhouses on sandy ground. The job mainly consists of chute pouring post holes for the steel supports. It's slow work that isn't helped by being next to the bog of eternal stench in one of the hottest and most humid parts of the state. The lot is clearly below sand, the really fine stuff that gets carried by the wind. It's been graded smooth, but not compacted at all. Basically, the lot is a sand dune with pretensions of civilization, and even the balloon tires on the tractors are digging in.
No,
Yeah.
that's not good.
I'm not taking my pig of a truck anywhere near that sand.
Yeah, no. Sorry. Not
Mhm.
happening.
At least not unless I wind up in a really foul mood.
Okay. I give you.
Luckily, the subcontractor is not stupid. He looks at the situation and decides to have me pour into the skip loader from the road. He knows we can't move my truck across sand, so he's been having the loader ferry the concrete from my truck to the holes. It means that his crew has to shovel concrete out by hand, and after the first couple of loads, they're going to look like the Chain Gang from Cool Hand Luke without the benefit of Joy Harmon. But since the owner didn't want a spring for a pump, it is the best option available. Polly doesn't show up until a couple days into the job. When I pull up with my load, he tells me what we've been doing is taking too long. See, this is where that
Yeah.
triangle comes in, pal.
There's the triangle. Yeah.
Good, fast, and cheap. Mm.
hmm
He's got a different plan, a better plan. He wants me to back out over the dirt to pour the holes directly. Because clearly that thought never occurred to us.
Like, why would that is
When I
That-
try to explain that the ground is too soft, he points at the tire tracks through the sand and say, "The last truck made it just fine." This is a lie. Not only that, it is an obvious lie. The
Yeah.
last The last truck made it is one of the more common lies people tell drivers, right up there with, "We can refill your tank with the water truck." They are practically memes, similar to the jokes about inspectors being the enemy, just without the humor or benign intent. It's the difference between Al Bundy and Ted Bundy.
That's a good reference.
I love that.
That is a good reference.
Right?
Oh,
I know I'm being lied to, and what's worse, I'm being lied to incompetently. For
right.
starters,
Oh,
for starters, the tire tracks Polly's pointing at were clearly made by the loader, not a truck. Also, I was the last truck. The way the job has been going, they've had one truck come out, pour the load, and go back for the next one while the crew sets and aligns the posts in the holes. Polly doesn't know this because he got there while I was off getting the next load. In fact, this is his first time out here since we started. He has no clue that I am the only driver that has been on this job since it started. This is one of those areas that doesn't bother with foppish fripperies like street signs or addresses. On top of that, this job is on a flag lot, so it has a very narrow street facing. I was on the job the first day, and since after that I knew where it was, and he knew I couldn't say no, my manager Bob asked me to do it on subsequent days so he wouldn't have to deal with lost drivers. So Polly is a bad liar, and I am now in a really foul mood. Oh no, sir. With my most obsequious smile, I say, "Oh, well, in that case, of course, I just need you to sign the ticket before I can pull onto the property." On my way back to the cab, I call Bob to see what else we have going that day. There isn't much other work, so Bob asks what's going on. I explain the situation, and Bob just asks one question: did he sign the ticket? When I say yes, he tells me to be careful and call him when we need a wrecker.
Yep. Yeah.
Wrecker is another name for a tow truck.
A big tow truck.
Dude,
Yes.
if it is a huge, it's a huge boy. It's a huge
Yeah, yeah.
boy. My dad
Huge.
used to drive tow. I was a dispatcher for a tow service for a long time back when I was, in the before times, before I was
Before times.
a huge video star like I am today.
Yeah.
Um. So anyway, back to the story. If you ever order concrete yourself and the driver refuses to pour without you signing the ticket first, think long and hard about what you just asked him to do. The ticket includes a damage waiver and acknowledges receipt of the concrete. Some drivers may have you sign it as a matter of course, though I've never met one, and most of the guys I know don't even get signatures after the job. For the most part, however, it should be viewed as a giant red flag that the driver thinks there is some kind of liability in play. It could be something as simple as backing up a curb, which could crack, or front yard with ever so crushable irrigation pipes and septic tanks. It could also mean that you've really torqued off the driver and he's about to nail you on standby time. You have a limited amount of time to unload before the accounting trolls start charging you $1 or $2 every minute. Okay, your best bet is to ask them if there is something to be concerned about. Technically, you could refuse to sign, but by that point, it's at Hobson's choice. And if there is nothing wrong with the load, you are paying for it either way.
See, and that probably is the best advice that we can actually give in this story. Straight up, if there is an issue, the driver is going to know there's going to be an issue. So he's going to get that waiver signed, the ticket signed, to make sure that the company or him is not liable for any crap that you're going to make him do.
That's
so
fantastic.
if that's the case, maybe rethink what you're trying to get him to do.
Oh, so check this out. Hobson's choice. I've never heard this before. It's a free choice, which only one option is actually offered, right? The phrase dates back to 17th century early England and is named after Thomas Hobson, a well-known livery stable owner in Cambridge. To prevent his best horses from being overworked, he implemented a strict rule for his customers. They could either take the horse in the stall nearest to the door or take no horse at all.
No
Literally
choice.
the origins of take it or leave it.
I get it. I got it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I did not know that.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to
The
use that
more
one.
you know. See, we're not just comedy and advice. We're also educational.
Yes.
Anyway, if we were busy, I would have slowly backed up until my truck started to bog down, then pulled forward and refused to go any farther. We weren't busy. When I bogged down, I just pull forward and try again. Each time I get a little further back, but it is very slow going. Polly is getting upset. After a half dozen attempts, Polly starts waving me back furiously and shouts, "Step on it. Just get on top of it." No. Apparently, Polly thinks I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
But in the world of malicious compliance, the customer is always right. I pull forward as far as I can, floor it in reverse, and right before I hit the sand, I flip the selector up and stick it into high range. A manual truck transmission is laid out in a standard H pattern, but each position covers 2 or 3 gears. There are selector switches to choose which sets of gears you're using. For instance, on an 8-speed, low range is 1 to 4, high range is 5 to 8. While high range reverse is a usable gear, you will almost never see a driver using it. Even the manufacturers recommend against attempting. It's a fiddly gear that is easy to break if you hit it with too much power. And you rarely need to go anywhere near that fast in reverse. That's true.
Yes,
My truck
it
leaps
is.
onto the sand like a corpulent gazelle. puffing and wheezing across the veldt. It doesn't
Oh.
last long. I've barely made it a truck length before I go back down to low range. Not long after that, my wheels start slinging the dirt, the tires sink in, and the truck starts bouncing from the effort. That's the signal to stop and check my work. Polly is, of course, not happy with this. My truck is nowhere near close enough. He looks at me and, to my complete and utter lack of surprise, asks, "What happened?" I tell him that I appear to be stuck. He asks if I can pull forward and try again. I look at my tires. The truck is buried to the axles, and it weighs as much as 13 pickup trucks or 40 smart cars.
40 smart cars. Yeah.
Nothing short of divine intervention is moving this truck while it is still full. So I smile and say, I'll give it a shot. On the side of my truck is a little knob for something called deep reduction. You set that knob and put it into low, and that engine turns into the god of torque. For you gearheads out there, the ratio is somewhere around 27-1.
It's like, if you've ever heard of like a tractor pull,
Yeah.
it's the ones that actually pull that sled all the way down. Those ones have the God gear kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, Will's the gearhead here. I am shockingly not. So that's a big boy. It's a big boy thing, huh?
It's a big boy. It's a big boy thing. It's a huge boy thing.
It's a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
boy thing. Got it. My big. It's practically impossible to stall the engine in that gear without running into an immovable object. Even then, you are just as likely to snap your axle or tear out the drivetrain while the engine hums merrily along.
That's
And
why
of
they
course-
don't use it all the time.
Mhm. And of course, if you are on soft, loose sand, it will just kick a gloriously wicked rooster tail all over anything or anyone behind you.
I would have loved to see just an image maybe of that, or, been there to see it, or a
Dude.
little short video, because that thing must have been huge.
Seriously. Polly is still spitting dirt when I get out to give him the bad news. Looks like we're going to have to keep using the loader like we were. Then once we finish with that, he can use it to help pull my truck out. In the end, we had the loader pulling on my tow hook and an excavator pushing on the Mansfield bar. The Mansfield bar? What's the Mansfield bar? I'm assuming it's the back.
It's the isn't it that the bar on the back that prevents people from going underneath the truck when they get in an accident?
It's a heavy steel bar hanging from the rear of semi-trailers. It is designed to prevent passenger vehicles from sliding underneath the trailer during a rear-end collision.
Yeah.
Which prevents life-threatening injuries and decapitation.
Yes.
So that's the little bar hang down from the bumper.
The hanging down bar, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool, good to know. See, I don't know all these things. If my dad was here on the pod, he would just tell me that he was disappointed and I should know these things. Not only did it waste half an hour of precious time he was trying to save, but he had to pay around $50 worth of standby. Of course, it could have been worse. If I'd been truly stuck, he would have been on the hook for the wrecker. TLDR, impatient customer lies about previous trucks making it across impassable terrain. I try crossing it, getting my truck magnificently stuck, delaying his job even further, showering him with sand, and charging him for the privilege.
See, I like how this is like it's construction stories, but it's also like mini malicious compliance, because
mini.
But because if anybody is going to have great stories about malicious compliance, it's construction workers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get more needy people than in construction,
Right.
and more irresponsibly needy, I should say.
I mean, just the utter, just the thoughts that people have sometimes. Well, why can't we do this? Well, if we did that, blah, 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 blah. Like things you haven't thought of. Let me tell you.
I just realized our next story is by Hippo Singularity once again.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
This particular aquatic mammal can write. I tell you what.
He can. He's got a good beat on it.
I didn't even mind that it was 12,000 pages long when I was reading it.
Right? It was that good.
Yeah. All right. Whew. Excuse me. Let's see. Hippo singularity once again. When we say it's not pumpable, that means it won't work with the pump. Makes sense? doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oops.
Was a snake.
Falling off.
And by the devil, he means earwig, probably.
It was a beetle.
Oh, a beetle. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a beetle. It was like just a rando beetle. That's the problem. That's the problem with living in the desert.
Yeah.
Because you don't get just like flies or roaches or whatever. You get monsters that come into your house every once in a while. Apropos of nothing. They're just like, hey man, what's up? I'm the devil. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
The next level of me is larger and deals with dung.
It was, dude, it just decided, hey man, we're friends. I'm going to crawl up your leg.
He was being friendly.
He was not. No, sir. He was not. Oh. He's like, we're friends. I'm going to eat you.
I'm going to eat you.
He eats his friends. Well, yeah.
See, that makes you his friend. See?
Yes, and he's my friend, and I murder my friends. I have never stomped on something so hard in my life. Like, my goodness. And I've done movies where I had to stomp on people. Okay.
Right.
Oh. Woo. All right. So where were we? When we say it's not pumpable, that means it won't work with the pump?
Yeah, we just started.
I'm not scared of beetles. I'm not scared of bugs, really. It's just when something surprise crawls up me, my fight or flight instinct kicks in. And my fight or flight instinct, because I don't run, is just fight. So I had to fight that bug.
Here, before you start the story, I got this from Colton. Okay.
Okay.
So tell me which face. How do you feel?
Oh, let's see. Which face? It's somewhere between angry and anxious. It's somewhere in between there.
You're right here. Anxious and angry.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you might mistake it for happy if you're looking at the picture. The first one was definitely scared though. I was terrified for just a split second. There was sheer terror and then burning, boiling rage. You get off of me. Good Lord. There was a snake in my boot. We're keeping all that in, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just jump in. Oh, no. Oh, my Lord. Okay. So for the third time, when we say it's not pumpable, that means it won't work with the pump. I'm so stuck on that. I'm a truck driver. More specifically, I drive a concrete mixer. We know this from the last story, bud.
Yes, we do.
That means a large part of my job is dealing with people who know nothing about the material, nothing about my equipment, but still think they know better than me, since I'm obviously just an evil-smelling, gap-toothed hillbilly who didn't graduate high school. Aren't we all, Mr. Hippo? Aren't we all?
For sure.
In short, concrete is what happens when malicious compliance goes for a drunken joyride down the Dunning-Kruger Parkway. Fantastic. So in this particular day, I was pouring at a school out in the middle of nowhere. Our plant was the closest one to the job site, but it was still a half hour away. It was over 110 degrees. That's Fahrenheit for all of you overseas people. I'm not doing the Celsius conversion. You guys have calculators.
You can do it. It's fine.
Schools usually do their renovation and repair work in the summer. The order indicated that they were going to use a concrete pump, and the manager, we will call him Bob, told me to throw in some fiber. There was a few different kinds of fiber we used, but the only one that works with a trailer pump consists of small squares woven out of a cotton-like material that come apart in the mix. I throw that in because it's a pump job. So we get onto the job site and start pumping. Everything is going well for the first couple yards. Then the pump's reducer, A pipe running across the front of the pump snaps, swings out, and slams into my foot. I wasn't
Snaps.
hurt.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I wasn't hurt, but it turned out the pumper knew that knew the pipe was getting thin and ran with it anyway. Oh no.
See,
N
that's where you should be doing your job.
mhm. Now I'm make sure check, dude, bro.
Yeah.
Now I'm pissed. Those pumps operate at massive pressures, and I've seen them blow concrete hard enough to knock a man over 20 feet away. Um, if I hadn't been wearing steel toes, it very well might have broken something. Yeah,
And that's why
always wear your steels, guys.
PPE, PPE.
PPE. Protect your PPE. Eventually the customer comes over to see what the problem is. He looks down at the pile of concrete dripping out of the broken pipe, prods it with his foot, and asks, "Where's the fiber we ordered?" I explain that Buckeye fiber can't be seen after it mixes in with the concrete, but I assure him that I added it personally. He then starts yelling at me. He didn't order Buckeye fiber. He ordered plastic fibers. He pulled it out his paperwork, and sure enough, that is what he ordered. I admit it was a mistake, but also tell him that the fibers he ordered won't work with the pump he is using. The inspector tries to explain that what he got is as good or better than what he ordered, and he is willing to sign off on the change. Customer isn't hearing any of it.
Yeah.
We finish the load, and the customer orders another 10 yards. I call it in, adding the bit about the broken pipe and that the customer was upset that the first load had Buckeye in it instead of plastic fiber. Bob can hear the guy swearing at me over the radio. Now, Bob tends to be very protective of his drivers. He is also more than willing to let customers hang themselves with their own lack of knowledge. I once watched him batch about $1,400 of liquid stupid because a customer ordered concrete with both an accelerator and a retardant in it.
What?
Let that sink in. An accelerator, things what speeds things up, and a retardant, things what speeds things down.
So
Right.
he ordered concrete with extra stuff for no reason.
Yeah. He just added stuff.
He just added stuff because it sounded good. Click.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bob could have loaded another truck right there and then and shipped it out. Instead, he noted that only one truck was scheduled for that job and waited for me to drive the half hour back to the plant. Then he batched the load with plastic fibers and brought the ticket down personally. As he handed me the ticket, he said, "Don't forget, they ordered a 4-inch slump." Concrete slump is a measure of how wet it is. It's measured by packing it into a 12-inch tall cone, setting it on the ground, pulling the cone off, and checking how far the pile of concrete dropped.
Yeah,
Slump.
I've seen that.
4-inch is something of a default order, but the only things you pour that dry are footings and curbs, and you don't put it that dry into a trailer pump. So I load up and drive back to the job. By now, they have been sitting out there for over an hour in 110-degree heat. The pumper is panicking because the concrete is setting inside his pump, and the patch of sidewalk they're doing is going to have a great big cold joint. Fresh concrete poured against set concrete makes a weak joint that is more likely to crack down the middle of it. As soon as the concrete reaches the back of the drum, the pumper tells me to stop and add a bunch of water. The inspector authorizes 10 gallons. It's still drier than the pumper wants, but the inspector won't allow more. Then the concrete hits the pumps grate. Everything is fine for a couple of seconds. Then it just starts piling up without going through. All those plastic fibers were getting caught in the grating and clogging it up.
Yep.
The gravel can't get through with the fiber blocking things up, so it's all getting pumped. So all that's getting pumped is cement and water. Customer comes
Which is
out
bad.
furious. Yeah,
Which is bad, by the way.
That's
That's
not
not
good.
good. That is not good.
It's the opposite of good.
It's very much so.
Customer comes out furious. He accuses Bob of spiking the load with extra fiber and tries to reject the load. I point out that we warned him the load would not be pumpable. And besides that, by having me add water to the load, they have already bought it. So now we are pumping a few seconds, clearing the grate, then pumping a little more. It took about 3 hours, which translated to about $300 of standby charges.
Ooh.
Most of the fiber didn't go through the pump. The pumper didn't want me throwing the giant clods of plastic in his hopper, along with quite a bit of gravel. The inspector ended up taking a couple samples from the pump hose. Normally, they only sample at the truck chute because he knew what was going to form. He knew what was going to form wasn't what was coming out of my truck. A month later, when those extra samples failed their 28-day test, the school had to tear out that sidewalk and redo the whole thing. This time, they ordered it with Buckeye fibers. Yep. Let's
I
see.
mean, as much as malicious compliance as this can be, like, he's still right. He's just trying to do what the guy that ordered it, the people that ordered it, he's trying to make sure that is done the way they wanted it, whether it's right or not. Right.
Yeah, dude.
So it's not
Like,
on
he
him.
yelled at him. Like, seriously,
Right.
you're gonna yell at me about this? Fine, I'll do exactly what you want.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck.
I'm just warning you, this is not a good idea.
It ain't pumpable.
Yeah. Not pumpable.
Dude, Hippo Singularity, man. It's just on a
Another
roll.
one? Nice.
You want us to violate the engineering specs and EPA regulations? That'll be $35,000.
That sounds
Okay.
good. That sounds good.
Oh, man, fantastic. One last story about maliciously washing out concrete mixers. I was going to move on to something else, but one of the commenters from last week made me remember this chucklehead.
Nice.
So I drive concrete mixers, and for those of you who didn't read my last post or the one before that, we read both of them. Concrete washouts and policies and laws surrounding them are a breeding ground for malicious compliance. Portland cement is nasty, evil stuff. It's about 2/3 calcium oxide, also known as quicklime or caustic lime, which has a pH of about 12.8. If it gets on your skin or in your lungs, it can cause chemical burns. As such, there are serious regulations surrounding the containment of the water used to wash down any equipment used in the concrete work. The site operator is ultimately responsible for providing the washout container, whether it is a rented metal bin or purpose-built pit lined with plastic because the water isn't supposed to touch the dirt. Fines for failure to comply can be $10,000 per incident per day, or more if federal land is involved.
Wow.
Sometimes contractors develop reputations among drivers. This is rarely good because drivers don't chat pleasantly about previous jobs; they bitch. If you end up as a subject of conversation, it's generally because someone is venting about you or warning other drivers.
Yeah.
That brings us to scuzz. Dealing with scuzz was like getting attacked by a drop bear. You came away from the encounter with nothing but headache, disbelief, and possibly chlamydia.
That's good. That's
Pretty
good.
great. On my first encounter with him, he decided to randomly pull out his phone and show me the naked pictures his girlfriend had just texted him, and left me with the nagging urge to get the can of Clorox wipes out of my truck and wipe down anything he touched. Right? When it came time to wash out, he told me to go over a couple blocks and use the dirt because it was all N-words over there. Woof.
Understand that. Yeah.
And nobody would care. Yeesh. I
Ow.
washed out in a bucket. This was before I learned the kiddie pool trick, and made sure to pass that helpful information along to the driver bringing the next load. Les. Les looks like the love child of Grace Jones and King Kong Bundy, and has the unconscious ability to fill all available space in the room. The man can loom while kicked back and a lazy boy. He is something of a gentle giant, so Derp's simplex did not. What? So, I'm assuming he means herpes simplex did not get fed through his own pump, but he failed to impress the big man with his antics any more than he had me, and the reputation started to build. So it's a couple years later, and Scuzz's company has hit a big score. They're doing both the grading and concrete for a local resort.
Okay.
By this point, nobody likes working with this company, primarily thanks to Scuzz. On smaller jobs, the senior drivers beg off and toss the rookies under the bus. Toss the rookies under the bus. Unfortunately, this new job is going to be too big for that. But hopefully, we won't have to deal with Scuzz. Putting him in charge of a job like this would be like appointing Thomas Midgley Jr. to head the EPA. He's going to look up Thomas Midgley Jr. because
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I feel stupid. He developed leaded gasoline. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Makes sense.
This guy writes real smart for real smart folk, and I ain't
Yeah.
that smart.
Nope.
So Scuzz is, of course, chosen as the on-site manager, and there's no way that this will not end in tears. Trouble starts from day one on the concrete pours. There is no washout. Instead, he digs a hole with a backhoe, has the trucks wash out into the hole, then buries it. This is incredibly illegal, but for the driver's parts, there aren't too many other options. It's the height of the summer, and nobody is going to even attempt to wash out into a bucket, which involves climbing a ladder with 20 to 30-pound bucket several times in 115-degree heat. We don't have time to do that with the required yardage anyways. Things come to a head halfway into the project, and it's blisteringly hot outside, and Scuzz has vastly overestimated his crew's ability to work in the heat. Trucks are stacked up on the job for hours before pouring. The load should be rejected, and probably would be if the inspector was on site. Scuzz doesn't want to reject the loads, however, because that's going to reflect very badly on him.
Yeah.
Each rejected truck will cost the company about $1,000. So he instructs the drivers to add water to 3-hour-old concrete mix. Normally, you are not supposed to add water after the 90-minute mark, when the concrete has started to set. In the heat, the cutoff should probably be closer to 60, and has the crews pour it. I had the second to last load on the job, so my concrete was 4 hours old, and I've already added over 100 gallons to try to keep it wet enough to pour. Woof, that's rough.
That's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water. Big truck. Let's see. That is way past the allowable amount, which is usually closer to 10 to 30 gallons, and most of it was added past time. The concrete is so far gone that it's hardening as it slides down my chute. I have to get a couple guys with shovels to keep it moving. Yeah, I have seen concrete mixers have dudes shoveling stuff to keep it moving.
Right.
It's never pretty. When I finish up, I ask where to wash out, and Scuzz points over to the trench we were using, the trench that is currently being filled in by the backhoe. So instead, Scuzz tells me to drive down to the low point on the site, a huge pit about 20 feet below grade, and wash out there. He'll have it scraped up with a skip loader later. Scuzz is not aware that the reason the backhoe was so furiously filling in the trench was because the city inspector had just rolled up on site.
Oh, no.
In fact, he's standing on the edge of the pit looking down at me. I decide I have had enough of Scuzz. I look at the inspector in the eye, stick my shovel in the chute, and without breaking eye contact, slowly drag a small pile of concrete down onto the dirt.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
As it plops into the dirt like a corrosive cow pat, the inspector jumps into his truck and comes tearing down the ramp like Moses coming down the mountain. He looks about ready to break a stone tablet over my head. I mean, obviously. Honestly, I'm not too worried. While technically I could be in serious trouble, what is on the ground is already dry and can be easily shoveled back into my chute. Unless the inspector goes on a complete power trip, the worst I'm looking at is a dressing down. The inspector jumps out of his truck and starts swearing at me, asking what the hell I think I'm doing, and threatening me with any number of environmental regulations. I kick the lump of concrete, and it rolls. Then, with all the sincere and heartfelt feigned innocence I can muster, I explain that my contractor told me to clean out there, and they did not currently have a washout on site. The inspector narrows his eyes and asks who my contractor is. I tell him, and the inspector starts swearing some more. Jackpot.
Jackpot.
As much as they are the enemy and to be obstructed, misled, and stymied at every opportunity, inspectors are not stupid. They know exactly what kind of games Scuzz has been playing on the job site, and they have warned him more than once. The inspector looks at the muck in my chute and points it with a finger. It's hard and pokes it with a finger. It's hard and well over 100 degrees. Concrete heats up as it sets. He asks if I have a hammer. I do. He tells me to knock out as much as possible and try to use as little water as I can. Then he drives back up the ramp looking to unleash some holy wrath on Scuzz. hmm
Well,
The inspector doesn't find Scuzz, who heard the inspector yelling at me and is currently cowering in the far side of the backhoe. Instead, he finds Jake. Jake had the last load on the job, and they didn't use all his concrete. Jake had also been in the industry for 30 years and knows exactly what the concrete will do to his drum. Jake is standing in front of the very large pile of concrete he spun out onto the ground and is filling his drum with the water truck's fire hose. With luck, by the time he reaches the plant, all that water will hopefully have loosened up the crap stuck to the inside of his drum.
hmm
The inspector doesn't even look at the pile. He just asks, "Where is he?" And Jake helpfully points out where Scuzz is hiding.
I mean, he's trying to be helpful.
Right?
Yeah.
Hilarious. When I finally leave, about 45 minutes later, Scuzz is in the skip loader trying to break up Jake's giant pile of leftovers. The inspector has finally run out of breath and stopped yelling, but so long he is there, he decides he might as well check the concrete tickets. It's
hmm
not technically his job, but he knows what is and isn't permitted. As I pass his truck, he is pawing through the tickets and he's grinning. There is nothing cheerful or comforting in this grin. A crocodile would think it was a bit predatory. The last half dozen concrete tickets all show more than the allowable water. A few more show the concrete was poured after the load was expired. Jake's and mine both helpfully include timestamps showing that water was added after the load expired. Um, the waves of Schadenfreude are almost visibly emanating from the inspector's body. The inspector not only hit the company with 2 separate violations, one for each truck, he went for the maximum fine since there had been prior warnings and the violations had been willful. On
yeah.
top of that, he gave the general contractor a heads up about the expired loads and overuse of water. So, in addition to the EPA fines, Scuzz's boss had to rip out and replace 150 yards of concrete.
Mm,
We never saw Scuzz again.
I bet not.
So, the TLDR. A problem contractor with a bad reputation grossly mismanages his site and tells me to wash out onto the ground. I start to do so in full view of an inspector and throw the contractor under the bus. Contractor gets slapped with 20,000 in fines and 15,000 in repairs.
Man, that's just, oh, it was excellent. I love it. It was excellent. The malicious compliance at its best.
Whew. Pal, you want to know who the next 2 are from?
Santa Claus.
So, dispatch said to go, so I went. Authored by Hippo Singularity.
Wow.
This guy is just like the king of the malicious compliance Reddit, it seems.
Apparently,
Goodness, this guy has such a flair for words. And this is relatively shorter. Oh my goodness. Picture Jack. Jack wasn't just your average dispatcher. All dispatchers are the natural enemies of drivers, but Jack was something special. He was a wretched little homunculus who fed on human misery and frustration and couldn't find his own butt with both his hands and a map. My man. When shuffling trucks to help cover plants that were short, he delighted in sending drivers that worked 4 or 5 plants distant and tacking an extra 90 minutes of driving onto the end of their day, turning a 10 to 12-hour day into a 12 to 14. Sometimes it was even worse. I work in Coachella Valley in California, and on occasion we would see our drivers shipped all the way to the coast. That is a long drive, my friend.
I don't know that one. I don't know
that
that.
is that
drive.
is a big long drive. That is an hour or 2 at
Yeah.
plus traffic. Are you kidding?
Right.
Um,
Okay.
I was okay. So anyway, I was something of a special irritant to Jack. About the only person who can override a dispatcher is the local plant manager, and my manager, Bob, would always try to keep me local so I was available to help close. Jack knew why it would happen, but being overridden pissed him off. Every time it happened, he would complain about it to Dan, the regional manager. Of course, Dan was a former plant manager and he knew exactly what kind of games the dispatchers played with the drivers, so he told Bob that we were in the clear. Increasingly frustrated, Jack begins regularly trying to ship me west anytime a truck was needed out there. Regardless of where I was or how long it would take me to get out there, I was usually over 50 miles away from where he was trying to send me. And every time he did it, Bob would just tell me to come back to the home plant. It soon became apparent that Jack wasn't even checking where I was or if there were trucks available at closer plants, and Bob gave me a standing order to ignore dispatch.
No. Okay.
Yes. Now enter Chad. Chad was a petty bureaucrat in every sense of the word, or words. He was also the taint manager at our company. Oh, okay. Nestled squarely between the regional managers and operations manager. Okay, that makes sense.
The tape manager. That's awesome.
That threw me for a loop, but that totally
Right?
makes sense.
It's very descriptive. It's very descriptive.
That that is some evocative imagery, right? In theory, he was in charge of the mixer division, but he didn't know or care much about mixers. What Chad cared about was efficiency. And at that time, he thought the best show of efficiency would be to start shutting down some of the smaller plants. We didn't get shut down, but several plants east of us did. Their drivers were transferred to the larger neighboring plants, and those plants were expected to extend their coverage area. Bob hates Chad. Chad's closure of our Imperial Valley plant was how I wound up volunteering to haul a load of slurry, a mixture of sand, water, and just enough cement to make it harden into sandstone. It's used to fill trenches and holes, down to Calexico on a Saturday morning. It was over 100 miles to get there, but there was no longer anywhere closer to ship from. 4 of us loaded up early in the morning and made the 2.5-hour drive down to the border. I was about 10 miles from the job site when my computer flashed a message from dispatch into San Bernardino off the job.
What?
San Bernardino off the job. We pour out the slurry and head to the local plant to refuel. It had been mothballed, but the fuel pump still works. While I am waiting for my turn to fuel up, I call Bob and tell him Jack is trying to send me from Calexico to San Bernardino, about 175 miles. We have a brief chuckle, then Bob goes quiet for a second. He says, "You know, you should do it. Don't even stop here. Just go straight out. By the time you get there, they should be just about done anyway." The unspoken message was clear. It was Saturday. My entire day was already on time and a half, and the job I was on had been an absolute milk run.
Right.
I could bag a few more hours of stress-free overtime by driving out to San Bernardino and immediately getting shipped back home. So I refuel, grab something to eat, and settle in for a 4-hour drive. As I exited the freeway in San Bernardino, my radio buzzes. Turns out Bob's been periodically checking the tracking map to see where I was. He says, "Hey, give Ronnie a call before you pull in." It reflects poorly on the plant when they ship out empty trucks, another of Chad's efficiency drives. So if I'm not going to get loaded, then San Bernardino manager isn't going to want me showing up at his yard. I call Ronnie, and sure enough, he's not going to have a load for me. He's already washing out his own trucks. So when I turn around and head back to Coachella, all told, I ended up with over 10 hours of overtime for delivering a single load of slurry. And since it was just slurry, my drum wasn't even messed up.
Nice.
Turns out the story wasn't quite over. I came in the following Monday, and Bob is sitting in the office with the most insincerely innocent grin I've ever seen. He looks at me and says, "So that job you took on Saturday? It was PW," and starts laughing his butt off. When we get sent out on a prevailing wage job, our time is counted from the moment we batch until the moment we return to a batch plant. Thanks to Chad's shenanigans, the Imperial Valley plant was no longer considered an active plant, so all 4 drivers on that job wound up getting paid prevailing wage at time and a half for the entire drive from Calexico. In addition,
Nice.
because Bob had me bypass the home plant and Ronnie turned me around before I hit his yard, I got prevailing wage for the drive to San Bernardino and back as well. My time card landed in payroll like a squirrel in a kennel.
Oh,
Crap was
geez.
lost. Crap hit the fan. Crap rolled downhill. right out of the operations manager's office and straight over Chad and Jack. A few weeks later, Jack was transferred to scheduling, where it was hoped he would do less damage. Chad kept his job, but the operations manager made him reopen several of the closed plants. Chad would fall
Yes.
to malicious compliance, but that is another story. TLDR, dispatcher decided to send me to a plant 175 miles from the job site, and I went. Ended with bucket loads of prevailing wage overtime and got the dispatcher transferred and caught an obnoxious manager in the fallout.
That's
So
100%. That is a free boat right there.
yeah, seriously, I like a free boat. That's what's up. I'm gonna go buy a PS5.
Yeah. I'm gonna buy 16.
Because those drivers' jobs, man, they make a
Yeah.
lot of money.
And prevailing wage, like, oh my, no. The dude's
And I
getting
do.
paid more than the managers are getting paid, like, for sure.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like yeah, you're making big money. Time and a half prevailing wage. Shut up.
Yeah. That's just that. Yeah.
Okay. This will be our last story.
When are you gonna do the hippo? You're
Of
the last
course I'm
hippo.
doing Hippo Singularity.
Thank you. I'm totally naming this episode Hippo Singularity at his best.
Dude. We just dude, man, Hippo Singularity, man. This guy rules. So this one is marked XL because it's a biggin. There's a reason they have those limits in place, Chad. By the man, the myth, the legend, Hippo Singularity. The big industrial and infrastructure jobs are always an exercise in logistics at a concrete plant. It takes about 40,000 pounds of concrete to fill a standard 10 cubic yard, about 2,020 gallons drum. All that material has to be brought in by semi to ship 100 yards, 10 mixers. It is going to take about 3 trucks of rock, 4 of sand, and 1 powder train. A single job can be over 1,000 yards. The biggest I have personally seen was over 5,000. It's over 5,000!
For 5,000.
And as much as a nightmare as it sounds. So this night we are running about 2,000 yards on 2 boom pumps. Okay. The loads are basically going out back to back as fast as Bob, the plant manager, can load them. I am not in my truck. I am down in the yard directing traffic. The anthropomorphic personification of Putt's Law, commonly known as Chad, has decided that this job is too big to let Bob handle things. I must know what Putt's Law states.
Love this.
Putt's Law and the Successful Technocrat. Putt's Law is the Successful Technocrat is a satirical book by the pseudonym Archibald Putt that humorously explains the dynamics of success in technology-driven organizations, contrasting the competent, who often stay lower in the hierarchy, with the successful technocrat, who can turn failures into career wins. The book introduces Putt's Law, which states that technology is dominated by those who understand what they don't manage and those who manage what they don't understand.
This
And explores
would
concepts like
definitely.
creative incompetence and how to navigate corporate hierarchies. Okay.
This is 100%. It's surprising that I know this now, since I've had to deal with this for decades.
Right? That's Putt's
Yeah.
Law is amazing. I love that. Okay, we're gonna have to read that book. Great. Readings for rich people. I don't like this. So the anthropomorphic personification of Putt's Law, commonly known as Chad, has decided that this job is too big to let Bob handle things. Bob has only been with the company for 20 years.
Only.
He is concerned that the drivers will get confused driving the 100 meters across the yard. So I am out there making sure the material trucks go to the material lane, a large grate in the ground where they can dump rock and sand down onto a conveyor belt. The powder trains go to the powder lane on the opposite side of the plant where the hoses to pump the cement are, and the mixer drivers go to one of the batch lanes directly under the big whomping batch plant that they work every day.
Okay.
Okay, picture painted. Things are fine for the first few 100 yards, but Bob is spending powder faster than the powder trains can unload. Eventually, the silos run dry and things slow down to match the unloading rate.
I mean,
This
that's what
upsets.
happens.
I mean, it's going to happen. You could
That's
you
what
run out of
happens.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Start
just not
running out of stuff.
infinite. Yeah.
You're talking 40,000 gallons of nonsense.
Right.
That's a lot of gallons. I don't know, like, milk jug is a gallon, right?
Right.
Those big milk gallons,
Yeah.
40,000 of those suckers full of
Yeah.
anyway. This upsets Chad. Of course it does. There are trucks stacked up at the job site, but they are starting to dwindle while the line of empty trucks at the plant starts to extend out onto the street. There is risk of a gap in service. Then we get a reprieve. One of the pumps breaks down, and the rate of work on the job site is cut in half. Bob can slow down enough that the powder trains refill the silos. We even get a couple stacked up and waiting to unload. When we get the word that the second pump is back in action, Bob goes over to the powder lane to tell the drivers they can start unloading like normal as soon as he finishes loading the next truck. It is at this point that Chad oozes his way over with all the charm and benign purpose of Sarah Lewis's cesspit. What? Who's Sarah Lewis and what's
Who's
her
Sarah?
cesspit?
Yeah.
There's so much I have to look up.
I love that he has a very large vocabulary and knowledge of a lot of different things, but also like we're just trying to read a story, dude. Like
Let's see. Okay, let's see here. So the deadly history behind this Soho water pump. Oh no. Okay.
so it's a whole nother story.
On August 28th, 1854, Sarah Lewis was caring for her desperately sick baby. At 6 a.m., she tossed the dirty water from from cleaning soiled nappies into the cesspit of her home at 40 Broad. I don't care what it is, and returned to console her dehydrated child. Within 3 days, 127 were dead, unknowingly infected by the drinking water that was now contaminated from the same disease that affecting the infant. Okay. So basically, yeah. He
Yeah.
is
That's pretty bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was, oh my goodness. He's spreading dysentery with his own vibe. Got it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. He doesn't want to risk a service gap. He wants the powder trains to start unloading fast enough to match what Bob is sending out. The powder train drivers say they are already unloading as fast as they can. Chad doesn't believe this. He knows the transfer system operates on variable pressure, and the drivers do not operate at the compressor's limit.
Yep. Like I said, I definitely have dealt with people like this. Like, oh, this can run faster. Really? Because I can't.
Indeed. Cement powder is very fine, and it carries on the air very easily. When delivering cement, air is blasted into the trailer, creating thick, misanthropic cloud of lung damage and chemical burns. Fortunately, this cloud is trapped inside the trailer, and the only escape is through a hose and up into the silo. The pumping speed, uh, the pumping speed by is dependent on the pressure inside the trailer. So what Chad wants them to do is up the pressure to the point where they are putting in the powder at the same speed Bob is pulling it out. The drivers refuse to do it. Company policy limits the maximum pressure they can run at. Chad doesn't care. Those limits are there to keep the silo from getting overfilled. With Bob pulling out powder as fast as he is, there should be enough time to shut down if the inventory alarm goes off. The drivers still refuse. Then Chad threatens to fire them for delaying such an important job. Bob and the drivers look at each other. Then Bob unlocks the adjacent storeroom and walks away while the drivers crank up the pressure. When he gets back to the office, Bob tosses me his keys and asks me to move his car over to the next mine. Bob normally parks right next to the office on what is usually the leeward side of the building. I normally park on the east end of the yard. I like it better than the street, but it means my car catches a lot of dust off the plant. So I move Bob's car and start walking back. By this time, Chad has moved up onto the catwalk above the loading lanes, where he can gaze over his efficient little kingdom like Yertle the turtle. Then one of the bag houses burps.
That's not a good thing. I know that for a fact. That is not a good thing. Not a good thing. That is not.
The machinery should not have a gastrointestinal
No.
issue.
No.
Even I know that's not a good move.
Said dangerous. They said dangerous.
If you look at the picture of the powder silos, you might notice what look like miniature silos on top of them. Those are the bag houses. Inside each of them are several dozen felt bags, like 4-foot long windsocks with one end sewn shut. The end is hung from the roof, while the open end is clamped to the holes on the floor. The roof of the main silo. As the air and cement powder is blasted into the silo, those bags act as filters, allowing the air to escape while keeping the cement inside. As best as we can figure, what had happened was that the air was being blown in at high enough pressure that it was packing those bags full of powder and restricting the airflow out. There was no alarm because the powder level was still below the sensor, but the pressure was building up inside. When the pressure finally grew too great, it tore 3 bags, blew open the bag house door, ripping the lock off in the process, and spewed a mushroom cloud of powder into the air.
Which is dangerous if you remember from just a minute
Chemical
ago.
burns
with
and all.
Chemical burns and the bad.
Yep. So Bob is a very smart man, it seems. I'm about halfway across the yard when I see the powder drivers slap their dump valves and dive into the storeroom. A couple seconds later, someone turns off the moon. A couple seconds after that, the penny drops, and I race for the office at a dead sprint. Chad is
course.
still up on the catwalk. Chad does not realize what just happened. Thanks to the massive halogen lamps mounted all over the plant, he did not notice lack of moonlight. He has no clue that directly above him, one of the bag houses is vomiting out darkness like an angry, bilious volcano god. All Chad can see is me running into the office and pulling the door stops, and the drivers all across the yard in front of him frantically rolling up their windows, and then it hit him. Our plant is on the west side of the yard. This is pretty normal in Southern California because the prevailing winds blow off the ocean. That means any dust or powder that escapes the plant blows across our yard and has a chance to settle there before crossing into the neighboring properties. For similar reasons, the bag house doors open toward the yard. In addition, that means Chad is standing on the east catwalk so he can look across the bulk of the yard. Finally, that means when falling powder was caught by the Santa Ana winds that had been blowing on and off all night, it got pushed straight back into Chad's face.
Oh.
The stuff came boiling down across the catwalk, hit the ground, and flooded out both sides of the loading lane. It was the kind of thing you expect to see Dwayne Johnson running away from, a semi-dysfunctional sibling unit in tow, about to learn a valuable lesson about life, love, and or family, while O Fortuna blares over the house speakers. The mess it made was glorious, especially in the break room, which had an open door facing the loading lane. The people inside were pissed.
Of course.
Things could have been much worse. Fortunately, since the powder drivers were expecting it, usually the immediate response to a bag house failure is for the driver to stand there dumbfounded for a couple seconds, then shut everything down. These guys killed the system in both silos immediately. Still, there was a lot of pressure in that silo, and it doesn't take a lot of powder to make a huge cloud. We also had to run for the rest of the night with the torn bags. I did rebolt the door closed. After the shift ended, I took a little drive downwind of the plant. There was cement powder in parking lots a half-mile away. Now, under normal circumstances, a blown bag house is going to cause an investigation, and someone is probably going to be suspended or fired. These were not normal circumstances. AQMD got wind of what happened. The Air Quality Management District are the boogeymen of the construction industry. Yeah. If you've ever driven past a construction site, you have probably seen the big signs that say, if you see dust coming from this project, call, and several phone numbers. One of those numbers is always for AQMD, usually the last one because the contractor is hoping for a chance to fix things before AQMD shows up. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just arriving on site is enough to completely shut down operations while a bunch of 300-pound truckers and construction workers peer fearfully through the blinds at a little white pickup and its 110-pound occupant. The reason for this bowel voiding fear is that AQMD can levy absolutely stupid high fines. In California, the cap is 1 million per day per
Oh,
violation.
per violation?
Hmm.
Wow.
Right. Though you would basically have to be a Captain Planet villain to actually get a fine that high.
See, I understand that reference.
Yeah, I thank you, Cap. Now, AQMD can't prove it was us. Technically, another plant could have blown a bag house during an overnight delivery, but we were the only plant running a large night job in the area. They know it's us, and it's putting us under greater scrutiny. Corporate doesn't particularly like that, so the investigation gets kicked up a notch.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right? Blame is immediately leveled at the driver whose silo blew. Between him, the other driver, and Bob, however, it soon becomes apparent that he had been forced to violate policy by Chad. More than that, Chad was in charge of the ready mix division, but the powder drivers fell under the authority of the materials division.
Division, yeah.
Yes. He had been threatening an employee he had no authority over. Technically, the materials division is a separate company from Ready Mix. Corporate wasn't about to just fire one of their highest ranking executives, since that would look bad. Instead, Chad was promoted and given a larger office with a spectacular view of the San Bernardino Mountains.
What?
In addition to his duties with the Ready Mix division, Chad was put in charge of the construction of new facilities. Of course, at that time, the only facility under construction was the new quarry. Unfortunately, the quarry was nowhere near the corporate office or Chad's house, so his desk was relocated on site. There wasn't anything permanent up at the quarry yet. Excuse me. So Chad's new office was converted from a steel container. It had corrugated metal awning to keep direct sunlight off the roof, a couple windows cut in the sides, spray on insulation all over the inside, and wall mounted AC unit. It also had a portable toilet planted next to it because there was no plumbing or on site water yet.
Oh.
It did, as stated, have an absolutely spectacular view of the mountains, though that would probably have been more enjoyable without all the noise and dust from the construction. To his credit, he lasted 3 whole weeks before deciding it was time to retire.
Oh, geez.
And that, my friend, is
Chad.
hyposingularity.
Chad.
Seriously. Oh.
Oh, buddy.
Chad is one of those names that you know trouble is coming after.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, and I've worked with the Chad, and he's a pretty nice guy, but,
Yeah.
you know, like, any Chad that you don't know personally,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All the Chads that I know were old friends, and they definitely were like life at the party people. You know, the ones that do the stupid shit
Oh, yeah,
kind of people. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
Look, man, construction is hard. And this was just concrete.
This was just concrete from one amazing writer.
My goodness. I hope that man wrote a novel. All those
Yes,
posts were from 8 years ago. And like, good gravy. That was amazing.
for sure. He's gonna be tagged. Yeah, I'm tagging him because this episode is all hyposingularity.
This is all hyposingularity.
Yep.
My goodness.
That wasn't intended, by the way.
No,
Just so everybody knows.
these were just like the top ones that we could find, and they were
Yeah.
all hyposingularity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's more.
They were all
on our
excellent,
list.
though.
I'm
There
sure
was
there's
more,
I'm sure there's more.
which
on the
will be
list.
posted onto our Reddit page. I got a little behind, but I did catch up. So we are caught up and good right now. So if you want to see some more stories from maybe somebody who's not hyposingularity, or maybe more that is, you can go check out the Reddit page.
That's right. Boy, Well, what a wild week. Well, Will, I hope you don't violate any EPA things,
I try
regulations.
not to. Usually I'm pretty good with that, making sure that, the people like OSHA and the EPA that are trying to, keep us safe are actually doing what they, should be doing.
Darn tootin', pal.
Yeah.
I'm forklift certified.
Yep.
That's right.
That's two of us.
Well, just remember, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Hi, Robin. Hopefully you're listening to this one too. One of my improv buddies is listening now.
Oh, nice.
That cat
Hello
is
then.
funny. Hello, Robin. His fancy red boots. Anyway, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. You hit us up on YouTube. Hit us up on Spotify. iHeartRadio, all the stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff.
It all helps.
It all helps.
Yeah. We have merch in the merch store.
Merch in the store.
That's right. And check us out next week, man.
Yeah.
I've been Dave.
And I've been Will.
Have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Been hating my job, I need to quit. Where'd I go wrong? Is this really it? I need to pick me up.